Something shifted in the fall of 2025. Artificial intelligence models had been getting better at writing code for a while, but then they made a leap that caught even the experts off guard, and with that leap came a darker realization. The same skills that let AI write clean software also let it tear software apart. Claude Mythos Preview is the name of the model at the center of this. It is an unreleased frontier model from Anthropic, and what it can do is unsettling. It can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. Let that sink in for a moment. The pool of people capable of discovering these flaws used to be small. Now, a single AI model can match them. Mythos Preview has already found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities. These are not obscure or trivial bugs. Either they appear in every major operating system and every major web browser. The software that runs our banks, our hospitals, our power grids. All of it contains flaws that went unnoticed for years because finding them required rare expertise. That expertise barrier has now collapsed. What makes Mythos particularly dangerous is its ability to chain vulnerabilities together. A single weakness might be moderate on its own, but when you link several of them into a sequence, you can create critical risks that allow complete system compromise. Mythos can construct these chains with very little human involvement pointed at a codebase, and it does the rest. This is why the people who saw Mythos in action reacted with urgency, rather than excitement. The capability exists today in one model held by one company, but AI progress does not stand still. It spreads, it proliferates, and the question shaping everything that comes next is whether defenders can adapt fast enough to match what attackers will soon have at their fingertips. Open source software has quietly become the invisible scaffolding holding up much of our daily lives. It is the dominant form of software consumed by enterprises today, which also makes it the world's biggest target. The code running inside hospitals, banks, telecommunications networks, and transportation systems relies heavily on open source projects. These projects are not just helpful additions to a corporate tech stack. They are the essential ingredients keeping entire sectors of our economy and society functioning, and yet the people maintaining these critical projects have never faced more stress. The sheer velocity of pull requests hitting major repositories is staggering. Maintainers are already drowning in a flood of security bug reports, and a significant portion of these submissions are now AI-generated. Well-meaning researchers can point automated tools at a codebase and produce hundreds of potential issues in an afternoon. But every single report still requires human review and verification. It creates a triage nightmare at the same time. The volume of actual cyber attacks continues to climb. State-sponsored actors and criminal organizations alike recognize that compromising a widely used open-source package offers a massive return on investment. Supply chain compromises have grown increasingly sophisticated, turning trusted update mechanisms into delivery systems for malware. What truly keeps security experts awake now is the looming threat on the horizon. The same AI capabilities accelerating bug discovery threaten to unleash a tidal wave of zero-day vulnerabilities. If the defensive side cannot keep pace with this flood, we face a potentially catastrophic situation where critical infrastructure sits exposed, while maintainers simply cannot work through the backlog fast enough. The numbers tell a staggering story. Cybercrime now drains an estimated $500 billion from the global economy every single year. That is not a distant threat or a theoretical risk. That is real money, real damage happening right now, and behind much of that damage sit state-sponsored actors from China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia, groups with deep resources and strategic patience probing. Critical infrastructure, day after day. But here is the part that should genuinely frustrate anyone working in security. According to data from Arctic Wolf, 76% of compromises traced back to just 10 known vulnerabilities, not 10,000, not 1,010, and every single one of those vulnerabilities already had a patch available. The fix existed, it was sitting right there ready to deploy. This is what security professionals call the patch paradox. The problem is not that we do not know what is broken. The problem is not that we lack the tools to fix it. The problem is speed and prioritization. When a vulnerability gets disclosed, the clock starts ticking. Defenders, already stretched thin, already juggling 100 competing demands, have to figure out which patch to apply first. Which system can wait, which corner they can safely cut. Arctic Wolf's data also showed that vulnerability exploitation accounted for 11% of non-business email compromise incidents in 2025. That percentage sounds modest until you remember the sheer scale of attacks happening daily. The gap between knowing and doing, between awareness and remediation, is where attackers live and thrive. They do not need to discover a new zero-day when old patched flaws remain open for weeks or months. They just walk through doors that should have been locked long ago. So the question became, what do we actually do about this? The answer started taking shape as Project Glasswing. This is not some small working group or a committee that meets once a quarter. This is a coalition that came together with real urgency. We are talking about Amazon Web Services, Anthropic, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, the Linux Foundation, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palo Alto Networks. These are not organizations that normally sit at the same table on security initiatives, but the threat picture changed the math for everyone. They are banding together for one clear purpose: to put these new AI capabilities to work on the defensive side before it is too late. And this is not just a statement of principles. Anthropic is backing this with enormous resources. They are committing up to $100 million in usage credits for the Mythos Preview model, plus another $4 million in direct donations to open source security organizations. That kind of financial commitment tells you how serious this has gotten. It also tells you something about the scale of the problem they are trying to address. At the same time, the coalition made a deliberate choice to keep this tightly controlled. Access is being restricted to a group of roughly 50 organizations. These are the people who build and maintain the critical software infrastructure we all depend on. The thinking here is straightforward. You do not want the most powerful vulnerability finding tool ever built floating around freely. You want it in the hands of defenders who can actually fix what they find. Finding a vulnerability is one thing, but fixing it is where the real work begins. For years, the maintainer dilemma has been exactly this: security tools could point out the flaws, but the humans still had to write the patches, test them, and push them out. That is changing fast. The practical application of Mythos Preview and similar AI tools is shifting the entire landscape from mere detection to actual remediation. These models are not just spotting the bugs anymore, they are starting to generate viable patches to fix them. When Jim Zemlin recently spoke with the Linux Project's Greg Crow-Hartman about this shift, Greg admitted that some of the patches generated by these AI tools were pretty good, coming from someone with his level of scrutiny and experience. That is high praise indeed. This capability represents a massive shift for open source security. But having the technology is simply not enough if the people who need it most cannot access it. Maintainers of critical open source projects rarely have large budgets or corporate backing. to make sure this AI capability does not become a luxury reserved for wealthy organizations. Project Glasswing is putting serious financial weight behind democratizing it. $2.5 million is being donated to Alpha Omega and the Open Source Security Foundation through the Linux Foundation. Another $1.5 million is going directly to the Apache Software Foundation. This targeted funding ensures that maintainers without deep pockets can finally use advanced AI to analyze their code at scale. It gives them the leverage to dramatically reduce their defensive burden, allowing them to spend more time advancing their projects instead of constantly putting out fires. So where does this leave us? The uncomfortable truth is that Mythos represents a moment in time, a snapshot of capability that will only become more powerful and more accessible. Anthropic restricted access to this model, for good reason. They saw firsthand what it could do, finding thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities across every major operating system and web browser. Putting that kind of power into the open without guardrails would be reckless. But here is the thing about technological progress: it does not stay locked away forever. The capabilities Mythos demonstrated today will be matched and then surpassed by other models in the coming months and years. Some of those models will be built by organizations that do not share the same commitment to safety. Eventually, similarly capable systems will find their way into the hands of nation-state actors and sophisticated adversaries who have no intention of using them defensively. That is not speculation. That is the trajectory we are on. The attack-defense balance, already tilted against defenders, could shift even further. So what do? We use the time we have right now to harden our defenses, while these capabilities are still largely in the hands of people trying to do good. Defenders must adopt AI tools to accelerate root cause analysis, to streamline patch testing, and to execute fundamental remediation at a scale that was previously impossible. The next generation of AI-powered exploits is coming. The only question is whether we will have used this window to build the defenses needed to withstand them.